Remove the wheel, then remove the 32 millimeter axle nut socket. $18 socket to disconnect the sway bar link. 18 socket to disconnect the tie rod. The sway bar link's a ball on a stud that'll just spin most of the time because it's a lock nut. So you got to stick a Torx bit or an Allen key in there, depending on if it's been replaced. That may vary. And then if that doesn't work, you can usually grab a hold of the ball on the back side and then run the nut off with an impact. I give it a try with the Torx bit, but it just breaks my socket. If you're not careful, vice grips will damage the boot. So I always try with the Torx bit or the Allen key first. You can get a puller, but if you don't have one, you can just give the tie rod a whack with a hammer and that'll pop it free, and you can disconnect it after removing the nut. You'll need to remove that brake hose, the wheel speed sensor cable. Just pop it out of the grommet. And then it's a 21 millimeter nut to pull the knuckle to strut bolts out. The bolts are like studs, they're pressed in, so you pull the nut off and then you tap the bolts out, and that should give you enough room. You can then get a pry bar in between the transmission and the CV shaft, pop that out of there. Always compare your new part to your old part. Make sure it's correct. Now you need to line up the splines. Make sure it's splined on, but there's a clip that has to pop into place. So you get it lined up good, and then with the play in the axle, you use the axle like a slide hammer and just give it a jolt in. Or you can line it up, hold pressure, and give it a little tap with a dead blow. Get it splined into the hub. And then reconnect the knuckle to the strut. Pop that speed sensor wire back into the grommets. A little bit of Loctite on steering components always. They're supposed to be lock nuts, but after you reuse them, they lose their locking ability, so you need to give it a little bit of Loctite. 18 millimeter, reinstall that sway bar link. 18 millimeter, reinstall that tie rod nut. 21 millimeter, tighten those knuckle bolts. It's a fairly easy job as long as that axle isn't seized in place. Torque the wheels to 100 foot-pounds.